What are some of the biggest well-meaning mistakes that parents make when money enters the picture and it's related to their kids?
I think a lot of wealthier parents, not super wealthy, but just parents of some low level of means, have an idea, very understandable idea of like, I want to use my money to give my kids a better life, but I don't want them to be spoiled.
Uh-huh.
And the way that they go about that with very well-meaning intentions is being like, look, we have money to help this child, but they need to go do it themselves. They need to go earn themselves and suffer on their own and whatnot. And inadvertently, what often happens is the parent thinks that they are teaching the kid hard work and dedication and integrity. And the message that the kid actually hears is humiliation. That the parents could be helping them, but they not, because I'm not worthy of their help.
Oh,
and it's very, and in the mind of the adult, in the mind of the parent, that doesn't make a lot of sense. In the mind of a 14-year-old, that's all you can hear is, I'm not worthy of their help. And it goes astray. I've told this story before about a good friend of mine whose grandfather was very wealthy and didn't want his kids and grandkids to be spoiled. And so when they went skiing, his grandfather would say, if you want me to buy you a lift ticket, you first have to hike up the hill. And if you do that, and ski down, then I'll buy you a lift ticket. Show me that you are capable of hard work. And so my friend tells a story. He says, the lesson that the grandfather wanted to teach us was hard work. But the lesson that we actually learned was grandpa's an asshole. That was the lesson that they actually heard from it, was humiliation from it. And I think there's a lot of versions of that. Another version of it is, it's extremely difficult for anyone to demote their lifestyle. To be at one level and then have to tick down even a small amount. People can absolutely lose their minds.
Downsized car, downsized the house.
And so if you are a parent of any kind of means or wealth, you have to be very careful picking your lifestyle, knowing that that will become the baseline, barest of expectations for your child when they are adults.
If you're in the 20,000 square foot house.
That's the baseline.
Yeah.
That's not a mansion. To you, the parent, it's a mansion because you grew up in something smaller. To your kid, that is normal now. And you think about this, what if that child wants to be a kindergarten teacher, but they can't? They know that they can't live that lifestyle because they got accustomed to something else. So now they have to try to become a lawyer or a doctor or an entrepreneur even if they don't want to do it.
I wonder if this explains another element on top of the psychological and relational and all the rest of it, why divorce is so painful. Because if you're splitting the finances, or even not.
Everything's half, right?
Prenup.
Right.
Yeah. There's half as much to go around, which means you don't get the same house and put it in half. You get two houses that are less than half as shit.
Yeah.
Like, because you got all of these additional costs that you need to pay now, and you've got to go between the two, and maybe you shared a car, but now you've got to have two cars, and that means that both cars are less than half as good.
Right. I think a very core human feeling that feels incredible when you have it and is devastating when you don't is generational improvement. Is to say that I'm living a better life than my parents.
Yep.
And as parents, it feels so good when you look at your children and say they lived a better life than we did. That is a core thing. And if you don't have it, it's difficult to have a good life. If you say, my parents raised me up here, and now as an adult, I'm down here. Even if down here is still a great life, it's very difficult to wrap your head around.
Have you looked at intergenerational competition theory, IGCT?
No.
The entire body of work around exactly what you're talking about. It's really, really interesting. You'd love it.
It makes a lot of sense. And that's the curse of being a very successful, wealthy parent. You feel so good as a parent. I worked my ass off, made a lot of money. Now I can give my kids a great life. Every cell in your body tells you to do that, and it's a wonderful thing. And if in the process of doing that, you inflated your kids' expectations to a level that they will never be able to exceed themselves through their own hard work and dedication, it's actually a curse.
Wow. Yeah, I think the other interesting thing is this comes into conflict with the 2 or 3 other dynamics in the modern world. So you have intergenerational competition theory, and it's not where were my parents at the age that I'm at, it's where do I think my parents were at the age that I'm at. So if you're unable to see the difficulty of them taking the bus to work or whatever it might be, there's just this assumption that a lot of the costs and a lot of the price, it kind of, they didn't really pay it all that much, but they were able to buy a house for what, like 2 years' wages or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not only that, not where were my parents, but where do I think my parents were when they were at my age? And also, where do I think that all of my peers are now?
Yeah.
given that everybody is putting the best of themselves online and that your entire competition network is globalized and available 24/7 and has the highest status, wealthiest people on the planet rising to the top by design because they're the ones that have got the outlier effect. It is no fucking surprise to me that people feel like they can't afford to have a family, that they can't afford to buy a house.
Yeah.
You must have looked at this, sort of the financial state of Gen Z and of sort of modernity. What are some lesser known or unpopular insights into the wealth of Gen Z and previous generations?
Well, look, by and large, there has been wage growth, real wage growth adjusted for inflation over the last several generations. On average, that's true. On a whole, that's true. The areas in which it is absolutely not true, that is just dramatically more expensive today than it was in any previous generation, is housing. And that's the most important thing to people. In terms of like box checking into adulthood, buying a house is near the top. To where if you can feel that you can do it, you feel like you're really making progress. I'm an adult. I own my own house. I'm doing it. And if you can't do it, you feel like you're just kind of stuck down in some lower level that you'll never get out of. And so when people talk about the price of housing, they talk about it like it's a spreadsheet problem. Like it's just, we got to get down mortgage. It's a social problem. And I think almost every social problem today that we have in any country, in America or any other country that has expensive housing, is downstream of housing affordability. If you can't afford your house, you're less likely to get married, you're less likely to have kids, you're more likely to abuse drugs, you're more likely to have poor mental health. It all stems down from lack of housing. And even something like drug addiction that you wouldn't think would be that attached to housing. When housing is very expensive, almost by definition, the bottom sliver of society becomes homeless. Because there's not housing expensive because there's not enough of it. Almost definitionally, people are going to become homeless. What do a lot of so many people do when they become homeless to gain a little bit of hope in their life?
Drugs,
heroin. And so I think it seems crazy, but there's so many of those where you think housing affordability is a housing problem, and it is just a social problem all the way down.
Wow.
We had a family friend, and she was in her late 20s, happily married. Both of them have good jobs, want to be parents, but can't afford a house where we live and are delaying, trying to have kids until they can afford a house, which in many cities, including the city I live in, seems like good luck waiting kind of thing.
Yep.
And so it's the biggest social problem I think that we have in America.
What is the relative, do you know the data on how actual median house price? What is it? Because house prices have gone up an awful lot and wages haven't gone up in line with it? Is it because of interest rates? Is it what is it?
The thing that I think should make you angry about the housing issue is that it's the easiest issue to identify why it's a problem, and it's the easiest thing to fix. We don't build enough houses. That's it. It's the easiest supply and demand thing. We're probably 5 million houses short in America that we should have built, then we didn't. Why didn't we build them? We have plenty of construction workers. We have plenty of capital. There's plenty of demand. Almost all the way down, it's a zoning issue. Whereas in most cities in America, where people want homes to be, it's illegal to build them. You can't get it properly zoned, or it takes too long for most developers to put up with it.
Okay.
And so it's purely it's a choice. It's a choice to be in the situation that could end tomorrow if people understood the problem enough.
Hang on. So we have the money to build the houses,
of course,
and the people to be able to
the demand to do it,
the people to be able to build them,
right,
and the materials to be able to make them,
of course,
and the people to live in them,
yes,
and the demand for them,
right.
But because of
talk to a real estate developer in Los Angeles who owns a plot of land that wants to build 100 homes on it, and it'll tell you it'll take you, if you're lucky and good and spend a fortune, it'll take you 3 to 5 years to get it permitted. And by that time, you'll probably just give up and move somewhere else.
This is fucking insane.
I
didn't know that any of this
should be
stuff.
The biggest problem. There's several books that have been written about it recently. Abundance by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson is a good one. There's another book called Stuck that is about the history of zoning rules. And
why is zoning getting in the way? What is it that they want?
This is
other people not want houses built.
People who already have houses don't want other homes built around them. The other thing, I think the most dangerous thing that we've done in America in the last 50 years is convince people that rising home prices are a good thing. And now if you own your house, you think, oh, I bought this house for $200,000 and now it's worth $600,000. I just made $400,000. I've never seen so much money in my life. No, you didn't, because if you sold that house for $600,000, you have to buy another house that is also inflated in value. So you didn't make anything. You didn't make any money whatsoever.
Yeah.
Who you did push out is the first-time home buyer who didn't ride that wave of rising home prices that is now priced out of a house.
That's such a fucking good point. How have I never thought about this? That if you buy a house low and sell it high, you still need a house.
You need another house that is inflated by the same amount. The only exception to this is if you downsize. But that's a very rare thing to do. If you migrate or downsize.
Well, I did it.
But most people do neither nor.
I don't own my house in America, but I did very fortunately manage to buy a house in the UK. And I did it the other way. So I went from the northeast of the UK, very working class town where, at a not particularly fancy wage, I think less than 1 year of annual salary for me was my deposit. So in the space of not too long, by being frugal, I was able to save up enough money to be able to put a deposit down on the house.
Yeah.
Then I moved to America. And the world is very different over here.
It's a different thing.
It is a different fucking beast.
Trump had a very honest comment about this 2 weeks ago. And this is one of the great things about Trump. He'll tell you exactly what's on his mind, won't sugarcoat anything. And he said, look, I'm paraphrasing him, but he said, if we build more houses, that's going to come at the expense of people who already own houses. If you build more houses, the price goes down. That's phenomenal for the people who don't own a house yet, and it's devastating for the people who do. And so that's where we're at this huge
stalemate between the two, right? Yes. And I'm going to guess that local house owners lobby the zoning people so that we don't want more because we don't want to lose our right. I guess.